Right. Good evening and welcome to the Coos County Citizen Council. I'm Chris Castleman here with Brandy Martindale and Perry Holman. How's it going, guys?
Good,
Doing
how you
good.
doing?
Pretty good. We had some intro music today. We usually just have outro music.
I love that.
I know you got to go, Perry, so why don't we jump right into it? What do you got for us for a crime update for Coos County?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the catch and release. It's pretty crazy what people are doing and getting away with. And it has nothing to do with how many jail beds are open or not. These people, no matter what, no matter how many beds we had open, they'd still be set free to do what they wish. It's crazy. A lot of
Yeah,
people are.
back in the summer we had 100 beds and they were still booking and releasing people.
Yep. Yeah, that's the main one. And the enabling. So many people want to defend the actions of all these people. It's getting crazy.
I saw one or two people have been like arrested multiple times in a day, like just in the past week. And I just that's insane to me. I mean, I get the logistics if you don't have enough space in the jail or if there's insurance reasons because they're mental or they're on drugs. It's like I can get it. I'm a smart person, but then again, it's also not acceptable, right? Like it's not acceptable to have somebody commit a crime like vandalism in Coos Bay. They're brought to Coquille, released onto the streets of Coquille. Then they go and vandalize something in Coquille or steal from the McKays, and then they're released again, right back into Coquille to go bother people at the laundromat. I mean, all in a day.
And they
That's not
more than likely
acceptable.
they won't even end up being charged for the crime down the road.
Well, that too, I've seen people who rack up these criminal trespass and criminal mischief, very low level misdemeanors, but nonetheless incredibly irritating. And there are victims to those crimes. But they'll rack up, 50 of them, right? Or what was there was a one guy who like they said he was the most prolific shoplifter in Coos Bay because he had shoplifted from Walmart
Oh,
so many times.
Peter Parks.
Peter Parks. And it's like they usually just mush them all together into one trial and they don't get the concurrent or consecutive sentencing that you would expect.
Yeah.
um it's crazy. um didn't something just happen today? Wasn't there? Oh, they're overdosed the library. What was up
Oh,
with
yeah.
that?
Yep. Um, Normal day at the library, pretty much. Um, they're pretty much feel free to do whatever they want at the library, and the actions of the library kind of back it up. There's no consequences for offensive littering or um, doing drugs on that property at all.
It's definitely crazy at night to drive by and see them all piled up there against the building. Um, and I just don't even know where to start because I know if the city council was on this call right now, they'd be telling us that, oh, there's laws and they can't tell them to move along. Um, as long as they're not like setting up a camp, then they're fine. And it's just like, where does this end? It's not acceptable. At the end of the day, like all these things are not acceptable, but yet they're allowed to continue.
Well, and the one excuse is, oh, they're just good people, and none of the people there at that library are good people.
Yeah.
Long criminal histories, just they're not good people.
Right. We could go right now, take a break and go ask them for some identification and run them through a couple of databases and probably turn up some out of state warrants or
I think
it's
people that haven't grown up with this stuff are really easily kind of like bamboozled because drug addicts can tell the most believable lie of anyone you'll ever meet. I mean, they'll look you right in your eyes and like really elicit that emotional, like, I had such a hard and I've tried so hard and I've been abandoned and taken advantage of by this person. And then you come to find out that they've actually committed heinous crimes against innocent people. But if you don't know, if you've never grown up around that sort of thing or spent a lot of time around that sort of thing, it's really easy to buy into the line, you know?
I think they're convincing because they believe their own lies, and that's the easiest way to convince somebody of that you're telling the truth is to believe your own lie.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's and then inside the library, you know, I've never seen someone doing drugs, but I've certainly seen a lot of uh, you know, shopping carts, and they have like a whole setup with trash and everything, um, smelly camping gear and things like that. And I don't understand why that. But again, I've talked to the librarians, and you know, they are not allowed to, by law, exclude people from access to the library.
They're breaking the law.
And
Why can't we?
it's just like then you go right, you go down the road of like, but that's a stolen shopping cart, and then they're like, well, how do you know it's stolen? You know, and it's like,
Because of the
it-
cart,
Where
what is
else
it
do you
called?
get? I mean,
yeah.
oh,
Well,
it's,
they're
you
like, you
know,
have to prove that there's a victim to this crime, and is Walmart they'll do. I've done this with them before. You know, the cops will come in there, and how do you know that Walmart wants to be a victim of this crime? And it's just like this. Again, I'm a smart person. I can understand all the logistics and all the legalities, but it's not acceptable. Like, right? Like, this is not acceptable. This is not and then you have people I saw online posting like screenshots of their property tax bill. And you know, it shows a couple $100 a year going towards the library. And they're like, not only do I not go to this library, no one in my family goes to this library, but I'm paying for it. That's not
Mhm.
acceptable.
yeah,
Just yeah.
we're
I don't know
paying
if I want
for
to
it,
get
but
off
we
on a
have to
rant on
do it.
property taxes, but
So
Yeah,
I wrote
what,
the city
what's
manager an email when I heard about the
in
overdose.
in in Coos Bay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
asked her what they're going to do about the optics of the library. Horrible littering, all kinds of drug use, all of this. They want money for a new library, but everybody knows what goes on right now is going to go on at the new library also. And I haven't gotten an email back yet.
Yeah, you actually just made me think for a second because I was like, here I am. I drive by the library and I think to myself, like, how do we fix this? Right. I don't just like look at that and go, ah, you ugly pieces of shit. You know, like I think to myself, how do we fix this? And I take all the knowledge that I've gathered from talking with city officials and I try and figure it out every single time I drive by. I'm doing it right now on this show. I'm trying to think, how do we do this? But it's like you mentioned the city manager. It's like, yeah, right. Like, where's the city manager? Where's the mayor, the city council? Are they not trying to figure this stuff out? I've never heard them talk about it.
Mm-mm.
Why aren't they trying to figure this stuff
not
out?
in a single press release have I seen. And I did a little bit of digging to look up, like, basically ways to reduce violent crime. It's crime mitigation techniques and their strategies for reducing crime in cities. There's a lot of stuff we have heard them discuss at all about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff that we need to do as a county is look at how far can we take it? What can we do within the bounds of the law? What can we push? Because sure, people can sue. Maybe it'll go to the Supreme Court for constitutional violation type thing. I'm totally up for like taking that chance at this point if it means public safety. But there's a lot of stuff we can do, and
Well,
they're
like
doing
if one
none
of
of
our
it.
towns in Eastern Oregon, I don't know if you consider it Eastern Oregon, but Grants Pass, right? Like took it all the way up to the
Western
Supreme
Oregon.
Court. So, you know, they can do it. Why can't we? And there's different like tiers of things too. Like we're talking about the library. It's a publicly funded uh like multi-use facility. And you know, I guess you can make an argument for, well, then you can't exclude people from using it. But I would make the argument you need to make it a kind of a safe place, like safer than normal, like parks. Like
Yeah.
they're not allowed at Mingus Park at night. They're not allowed there to set up their camp, and they don't. because it's policed. So why is that? Why is the library like not a park, right? Like the area around the library, it's like an extended sidewalk. It's like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet sidewalk because it goes like under the canopy of the building. Why is that not? Why can't they designate that a park? Like get
The,
creative and protect that.
exactly, get creative. Find any way you can to make these people's lives as unpleasant as you possibly can, and they will leave. They're contributing nothing, and we can't help them. So encourage them to go somewhere where they at least maybe can get help because we have nothing for them.
Well, and I give this example to people sometimes. So the concept of property tax and paying for the library, it's like, think of what if it was like a Netflix subscription, right? And this is our Netflix subscription. It's the library, right? But like the interesting thing is if like Brandy, if you want a Netflix subscription, you have the option to sign up for it or not and
Right,
cancel it or not. Like imagine if you wanted a Netflix subscription so bad that you convinced Perry to also get one. And even though I don't want one, I'm also going to get charged for one, whether I use it or not, because
right,
the two of you form a majority. And now I am forced to get Netflix. And it's like, it'd be one thing if Netflix was like awesome and we could watch it, you know, and I'd have the option to watch some like cool programs on Netflix. But then fast forward like a year, imagine if Netflix, like in the middle of your shows, just showed like porn or like random things that are not cool to watch, right? Like grotesque images just flashing on the screen, or it just cut out, you know, it wasn't available. It's like that's what they're doing with our library. They're
Pretty good.
forcing you to pay for it, and then they're allowing it to become a facility that people don't want to go into anymore. You know, or like Cheryl says, she wouldn't take her children to that library, and I hear this all the
right.
time. And they're forcing you to pay for it. Like, what do you? How do you feel about that, Perry?
Well, and that's the problem. We have to pay for it, but we have no say in how it's ran, and that's not right. The
Like, you have
public
a little
library, we
say.
should have. Well, yeah, technically, yeah, we do have say, but
Oh, they'll give you lip
ultimately, we don't.
service.
That
They'll go, you
there's
can
like
all
five
pay, and
seats, I believe, on the library board that are like within the city, and then there's two seats that are outside the city limits, but still within like the school district boundary or something like that. And so like there's a little say, but those seats are selected by the city council. It's not an election. So it's like, uh, yeah, we have a little say. And the board of commissioners, which is elected, it's three people, they uh, double duty as the library district commissioners. So they all the tax dollars actually go to the county from all the library districts, and the commissioners manage that money. And there's like a formula that redistributes it to all the libraries. Coos Bay gets a very high percentage of that. But is that helpful for people to know? I'm talking too much about money.
no, it's really informative. Yeah, this is stuff that I think people need to know. It helps people understand how all this stuff functions, and by understanding how it functions, people can understand what they need to do to get help to change it. It's kind of instilling a little bit of power into the individual, you know, like the people who can join the library board, go for it. Or I guess they would need to get on the city council to have any effect over the library board then, right? Because those are not actually elected
Yeah, I mean,
positions.
you can apply. There's an open position right now for the Coos Bay Library Board. But again, it's going to be, you have to be approved by the city council. So I'm
The very
most
people
likely,
who are doing nothing.
there you
And
go.
it's
But
real.
they
It's
are elected.
frustrating. They
But I don't
act
think any of
like
us live in Coos Bay
it.
city limits. So
What can we do? And like you're saying, can you designate this area as a park? Can you like come up with something? Like I was looking through a lot of this crime reduction stuff,
yeah,
and there's some great ideas in here. Some of it is trash, like garbage in the sense of like we'll lock up your property and put up security cameras, and I am so sick of the idea that the victim needs to be the one. Like, yes, to an extent I get it, like don't put yourself in a situation, you know, if you can help it, but like this constant, like what you can do to protect yourself. How about we just make crime like really, really
Yeah.
uncomfortable for people to commit?
I have a
I
dream that
mean,
someday, uh, this might sound arrogant, but it's like someday you'd have politicians, elected officials watching this show, and afterwards we would just get an email that'd be like, "That was a good point, and we're gonna look into it." Like,
wouldn't that
is
be
that too
something?
much to ask? That to me, that's how
I don't
normal
think so.
it should function.
I
Like, I
think
bet that happens with Fox News. I'm sure congressmen watch Fox News. Now I'm
they do.
comparing
I've
us with
sat
Fox
in.
News. We are not Fox News, but it's like they'll watch Fox News and be like, "Holy shit!" They made up. You guys brought up some stuff that we need to look into.
I'll tell you right now,
But
I have been in those rooms at the oval tables with the people running for elections, and they absolutely, we have sat and watched news media programs to see how the media was going to frame something to the public so that our people would know how to respond. So yes,
well,
they do. That's
I
super
hope they
common.
start paying attention because things have got to
Well,
change.
They're
yeah,
they're dismissive.
they
The
are
mayor
dismissive.
the mayor flat out said that you and I were lying, Chris, about
Yeah,
Devereaux.
he did for quite a few months, and then eventually kind of said, "I think you guys were right." So, um, it's like, yeah, no, I think we were telling you what we were seeing with our own eyes, and you didn't believe us. But
Some people rely on integrity. If we're
yeah,
saying something, it's true. If something's
Cheryl's
going on, it's going on.
Cheryl's warning us to not get a big head.
Yeah.
You
This is
keep us
not
in
Fox
line,
News,
Cheryl.
people.
So
Thank you,
we know
Cheryl.
our place.
Yes. Uh, anything else for crime, Perry? I know it's the little stuff that honestly is the most frustrating because it's so little and easy to see happening.
hmm I got a little bit of a funny one. I was out walking the other night and walked by Pro Diesel, and a couple was walking towards me, and I turned around and they disappeared. I don't know where they went. So I'm like, oh, they had to have gone into that parking lot. So I got to where they wouldn't be able to, far enough away they wouldn't be able to notice me. Turned around and looked, and I'm watching for a couple of minutes. Then I hear glass breaking. What are they doing? So I call it in. Police show up there, and that piece of property has a night watchman. And it turns out that night watchman came home and then busted out his own window. So it ended up not being a crime.
Like drunk or like had to get into their house, so they
They just said
busted
that
their
he
wood.
was just being stupid.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I wasn't there another one where somebody called the cops because they saw somebody in their like rental home, or they
Oh,
didn't they,
yeah.
they didn't know that their ex had rented it out or something
Yeah.
on Airbnb.
I think it was actually a husband and wife, but hearing it over the scanner, you're not positive of who's who. But
They actually
somebody
detained the
didn't tell
people.
somebody else that they were using it as an Airbnb, and the police showed up in force, doing their job,
Yeah.
guns drawn, pulled the two people out, arrested them,
Wow.
all of that just to find out they were supposed to be there.
Well, I hope
Oh,
they informed that luckily, even if it was a case of mistaken identity and they had to figure it out later, they would have been booked and released no matter what.
Right.
well, that's fantastic.
There you go. Jeff says the politicians they watch the recorded show, so they're not. It doesn't show that they're kind of watching. They can
Yeah.
watch later
I
on
would
their own.
if I
I
was
don't
the
think they watch this.
president, I would like be so far up everyone's ass. I would be watching everything.
I
Like,
would too if you want, right, if you want to know what's going on. But yeah, it's a dream though. It's a goal someday. We're gonna do a good enough job that someday it will be something that they can't not watch because it'll be so good. That's the dream. Cheryl was saying about the library that it's turning into another Devereaux Center, and it
it is,
certainly was the case. That was the case the city was making of like not shutting down the Devereaux Center because stuff like this would happen, right? It would spread the ick everywhere. And they're right, but it's not a reason to continue an operation like the Devereaux Center. That place was a
Yeah.
sanctuary property for crime and drugs.
Um, Speaking of that, the Harmony Church right there at Central and Ocean, they didn't get rid of their pallet homes. They just moved them right there next to Ocean Boulevard so nobody can see them when you drive by.
Nice. I think Florence, there's a city just north of us that has uh, a large number of pallet homes, and they're off the highway and hidden, and they do such a good job with it that no one even knows it's there.
That's me.
And they don't have an issue. So maybe it's like a step in the right direction. I don't know, but I feel like they kind of like hiding the issues around here.
Well, it's, the one thing that I like about those little pallet homes is that it gives a person a secure place to sleep. And one of the things that, I think we don't discuss is how many people are abused on a regular basis having to sleep outside. Like sex abuse against homeless women is pretty common. And so having these places where people can at least lock themselves in and sleep soundly
Yeah.
seems like a humane option. Like these people belong in a long-term care residential type facility. In the meantime, until Oregon pulls their head out of their behind, um, that seems like a great way to provide some sort of humanity to these people.
Harmony
Yeah.
Methodist is not a safe place for women. That's already been proven.
And even the pallet homes on near the Coalbank Slough, the Devereaux Center version. Yeah, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. One time I just waltzed on in. There's supposed to be security. I just walked in, went up to every single little pallet home and talked to people. No one asked who I am, what I'm doing, you know. That was a lie, by the way. That was like one of those things where I told the city council about that and they were like, "You're lying." And it was like, okay, well, what a wonderful way to start a relationship. I'm a liar. And then we got trespassed because I did that. Yeah.
That's wild, Chris, because knowing you personally, I would bet everything I own on you being one of the people I could trust to like never lie. Like it's a part of who you are and your personality, and the fact that like they would dismiss their own ability to know what's going on in their own community by scapegoating you and scapegoating your integrity. It's kind of a
Yep.
shitbag move.
But there's a
Oh, yeah.
reason for it. People that are against us say things like that. That way they can just dismiss what is said and just say, oh, they're a liar. Oh, they're a bigot. Oh, they're whatever. And that gives them the moral authority to say whatever they want about us and to not take the time to investigate what we're saying because we're a bigot or we're a whatever you want to call me. It gives them in their own eyes the moral authority, even though they're dead wrong.
And it started with you and I being told that some stuff goes down at these properties at night. And instead of believing one way or another, right? Instead of saying, "Oh, you're a liar," or, "Oh, that's absolutely true because it came out of your mouth," we went and verified it. We went there late at night and we witnessed prostitution and drug dealing. I mean, anytime you went there at night, they came right up to you. It didn't matter who you are or what you looked like, and you were immediately offered the option to purchase drugs. And
That's awful.
And then when we told the cops about that, I gave detailed description of some prostitution that I witnessed. And next thing you know, the next day, Perry and I are trespassed from the property. We're getting called from the cops, and the rumor on the street going around town was that I was picking up prostitutes at the Devereaux Center. So, because if I did that sort of thing, those would definitely be my choice prostitutes.
Yep.
Yeah, the porta potty behind the Devereaux Center. That's the place to be on a Saturday night.
Yep.
I'm gonna keep all my jokes inside.
Yeah. It's actually not funny. It's pretty gross, and I didn't believe it. And then I had someone take us there and watch it. Essentially you buy the drugs from one person, you take the drugs down to the porta potty, and if the right girl's there, she'll trade you favors for the drugs. And I'm like, no way, no way. And yes way. And Jeff says I got away with it because I look like a bum, which may or may not be true. That's funny.
Yeah, I don't think I could pull off looking homeless.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I even just it wasn't like middle of the day. It was probably like later in the evening, like maybe dinner time, like 6 o'clock. I just drove through in my car and I looked very normal. And because I was asking around for somebody, and when they came up to the window, I was like, "Hey, do you know so and so? Do you know where they might be?" And they were like, "No, but are you looking to get some drugs?" And they didn't use the word drugs. I don't even know what words they use, but um, they call it all sorts
Stuff.
of things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think pretty much it was like a drive-through. Anybody could come through there. They didn't, and this was, I don't know if there's like different laws about drugs now, but this was back like in the summer
Or
and
the
before that
winter
when it was like, yeah, it was like not even remotely illegal. So they were not nervous about like a sting operation or anything.
I will say that this has come at such a high cost for the people that it has affected. But I was super ignorant to how addiction works, which is crazy because like I've experimented. I lived in New York City for 8 years, and I had a very good time in the city, and I think I took for granted how addiction works for most people. Most people can't do drugs and just never do them again. So once these people who already have mental health issues, they're living on the street, they probably have a history of trauma, they're like primed for drug addiction. And then you have someone just being like, here, like giving it out like candy. Of course, they're all addicted to drugs now. And that's
Well,
why
and that's
in
the
places,
sad part. Yeah, that's the sad part of the Devereaux Center. And it's like before I brought it to like law enforcement was the last people I brought this to, by the way. It was like first I verified it for myself, then I talked to the literal people doing it and I was like, "Why do you do this?" Then I talked to the Devereaux Center and explained to them that like if they just did their thing during the day and not this whole thing at night and had these people move along at night, it would be a whole different situation, and people would have a lot more respect for the facility, and they'd actually be doing only the good things and none of the bad. They didn't want to listen, so then I went and talked to the city council, and then they didn't want to listen, and I got trespassed. And it was like only then did I finally go directly to the police and file police reports that this stuff was happening. And I think ultimately I should have just done that right away, because that's what ended up kicking this into a law enforcement investigation for a specified crime property, because there was a pattern of these crimes happening on this property at night, and I believe that is what finally did them in. But it's like, why didn't the Devereaux Center do that? Why didn't you have anyone, any employee, anyone in management, the director, anybody following that process? They had to have known that this was well, I know they knew it was going on because I told them about it. And it's just sad. These people claim that they're helping and that they get millions of dollars to help, and they're really just enabling this. Yeah.
massive enabling.
Well, they
And
need the criminal element. They need the criminal element of the homeless. That way, their numbers stay high and they can get more money.
I don't want to
Well,
believe that, but it
no,
it
it's true.
sounds
It's true.
like that is the case.
It is an industrial complex. And Here's a good way to kind of conceptualize that idea. What you spend money on increases, period, full stop. So if you spend money on providing for homeless people, you will increase homeless people. If you spend money on drug rehabilitation, you will get more drug rehabilitation. Like if you spend money on inpatient therapy, where people actually have to commit themselves, if you spend money on feeding the homeless, you will decrease the chances that they admit themselves into a resident facility. Whatever you spend money on will increase. And
Yeah.
when
It's definitely
when
like one of
funds,
those situations where they're not actively trying to solve the problem because they go out of business. There wouldn't be a Devereaux Center
right,
if
there is
they
an
were able to get rid of
incentive.
homelessness.
Everything
It's
that's being
like what
done has been
OJ,
tried before, and it always fails. Just a quick Google search in an hour of time, and you can see where all the big cities have thrown all the money at it and tried all the things that we're trying to do locally, and none of it has ever worked. But let's try it
correct,
here because maybe it'll work this time.
Yeah.
correct.
It's been enough time that they can look at these homeless programs, these massive grants, and see that they haven't been working. California is like #1 for this.
Yep.
Gavin Newsom, good
Yeah.
old.
He's a monster. He's like an actual bad, like
He's such a greaseball. He's so
he's a
slimy.
rotten human being. Like
Yeah.
how
We got some comments here. Tom says it's called enabling. It is. Well, the Devereaux Center too was supposed to be not for homeless. It was supposed to be for mental health. And it's like you were harming that population by allowing, like, that was the worst, is like when I'd go there late at night and there's like 10, 15 people, they had a little canopy set up, and it's just like there's clearly some people that are totally messed out of their minds on drugs. But like I would say a good half of them were just mental people. Like they were, I felt like I was in a mental, like an insane
yeah,
asylum.
yeah.
And it was sad to me. It was very sad to be there and to just be like, these people have no clue where they are and what they're doing, but they're happy as all heck because they're having a little party
Fine.
here under the canopy. And then that's half of them, and then the other half are high on drugs and they're going out and they're shoplifting and stealing people's mail and vandalizing, and they kind of like go in circles and come back and get a little bit of pizza or something to drink or some more drugs. And it was like a center, it was a center for this. And you could watch it, and it was enabling, for sure, enabling all sides of that equation. um,
Anytime you have rights without responsibilities, it is enabling. Every time. They have made bums big business. They absolutely have. It is the
there's, yeah,
homeless
Devereaux
industrial
Center
complex.
and alternative youth activities, which I like the guy who runs that. They seem to be doing a better job, being better stewards of the money, but it's still like, I think he got $2 million in grants over the past year, and it's big business, like.
I have nothing, but I do know the inner workings of AYA, and
We gotta go,
I
guys.
believe his name is Scott.
See you later.
Bye, Perry.
Perry had he told me he could only be on for 5 minutes, so the fact that he made it 35 is pretty slick.
Yeah.
So appreciate Perry coming on, give us a crime update. But sorry about that. Continue.
So I think his name is Scott.
Yep, Scott Cooper.
He's awesome. And what AYA is doing with that money, they are literally housing abandoned teens and they're putting them into work programs. A lot of the staff actually lives there on site too, and so there's some in-kind rent situations. But the work he's doing, he, in my opinion, is what a not-for-profit should be. He's really, and I kind of have a soft spot for because I really feel like our kids are where we make the biggest difference, and that's a legitimately good program. He's not enabling anybody. Like
Yeah.
he's not tolerating any, funky business.
So I hope that's the case. Was it Reagan who said like trust but verify, or Nixon or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
But yeah, I've had many conversations with him. He's been at city council meetings and county commissioner meetings, and I go to the homeless advisory meetings every month, and he's usually there. Great guy to talk to, and he lets you ask him questions, and he has good answers. Um, I've been trying to get a tour of these facilities for like 2 years now. So I'd like to get a tour. I'd like to
He's
finally
very
figure that out
like,
with Scott. He's offered it many times and we've never been able to figure it out. So, but yeah, and I haven't looked at their finances. So I'm hopeful that it's going well. I'm a little hesitant because it seems a little too good to be true for some of the crap that goes on around here. But yes, they've expanded it to families now. So it's like families, and youth is anyone 25 and under. So they've expanded a little bit, but they're renting out places um, to people who are not rentable, and they're on the hook for those people. So there's accountability there, and they're seemingly doing a good job of making sure that they're the right people getting in the right housing, and that it is genuinely temporary, and they're putting the steps in place to get them to have a better future, which is
definitely.
really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I would just like to verify that.
I get to, I can't, I don't want to like get myself in trouble, but I have a little bit of knowledge of the interworkings of AYA because of professional stuff. And so I can kind of like
Yeah.
say that I don't see, from what I can see, I don't see anything that would make me feel suspicious. He's running a pretty tight ship, and what he's accomplishing with the amount of money that he's been given is he's doing a lot. He's
Yeah.
I think
Well,
he
if
maybe
I'm trying to get a tour with a
do it.
camera.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
do it. I think
that's my ask, is that I go on a tour, that you come with me, Perry comes with
yeah,
me, and we go do a tour and we film it and we ask a bunch of questions. I think that would be incredibly informative. I mean, like Coos County, you've got, I believe it's about $2 million funding that came from state tax dollars, was diverted to Coos County, and then got sent to AYA. So we should be able to see what's going on, and $2 million is a lot of money, and I think people would be very interested to see that it's going to good use. So it's a fair request. I'll have to ping Scott and see. I think there's a homeless. Oh, I think the meeting was today and I missed it. Was the homeless advisory meeting? Anyways, I'll reach out to him. I think that'd be really cool. They have a couple facilities um, as well. So,
and most
and some
people
of them
don't
they've
even know
renovated.
there's multiple, and most people have no idea that they're living next door to one of the AYA facilities, and
Yeah.
Scott's really proud of that. That
And he
people don't
has
even know.
programs for like alternative education. Like,
Yes,
I mean, and
yes,
I think that's how it originally started, but he does like, solar panels and stuff like that. Like teaches people electricity, or, electrical work and carpentry and things, trades. That's what it's called. I couldn't
yes.
find the word.
He's doing a ton of workforce training with young people.
Workforce. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a spot at the mall now too, a little office to help people, kind of like a
Cool.
navigation center, which is what the Devereaux Center was supposed to be. Uh, Peggy asked, has the Devereaux Center hired a new director? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Yeah, I haven't been up on my Devereaux Center stuff lately. She also was saying that Benetti and the Coos Bay City Council is bound and determined to get a new library, regardless of being a no vote twice. I don't get it. I don't either. They think that they know better than the people in the city and the people surrounding the city that utilize that resource, the library. Um, like they keep saying that it's sinking, that it's falling apart, and I get that if it is, but wouldn't every building in that area be sinking and falling apart and need millions and millions and millions of renovation money? I don't know, but
Oh, I don't really care about the library when women are being thrown on the ground in an attempted rape in the Walmart parking lot. They need to pull their heads out. And I will
yeah.
say, it's worth mentioning that leaders, when they think, well, they know what's best, right? And they may have a vision that is in the best interest of all of us, but it doesn't matter. We don't live under a monarchy. We don't live under feudal, uh,
Well, and they have the responsibility to articulate that vision to the
yeah.
people and share that with us and convince us that that is the right path so we can give them the gesture, yes, we would like to go on that path with you. That's leadership.
But even if we select something that's not in our best interest, we're adults and we have the right to do that. It's
Yes,
just,
yes.
we like that is kind of the thing that is missing in leadership is the humility and the respect for adults to make their own decisions. And I see that a lot among my kind of like Ivy League educated peers. They think they know better. And a lot of times they may have like a better vision, but it doesn't matter because you don't have the right to take autonomy and agency away from adults. They get to choose what they want for themselves and for their community, even if it's not best.
Yeah.
And that's it's like people have the right to choose what they want for their life, for better or for worse. And we're electing people to do what we want them to do, not to push their agenda down our throats.
Well, and speaking of elected officials, we are in the midst of district elections. The actual like election night is at the end of May, but from now until it's like March 10th or something like that, I think you have to file March 20th, maybe. These are the district election seats that are available. You've got that blue box is the Southwestern Oregon Community College, has 4 seats. All 4 people have already filed. They filed on day one to rerun for those positions. These are 4 people who have defended hiring a sex offender to work at
Yeah,
their college
well,
and tutor high school students. And then the green box at the bottom is all the school boards. There's about 4 for each school board. And then the red box is Bay Area Hospital and Coquille Valley Hospital has a couple seats available.
tell your friends. And,
Yeah.
because the people watching this video might not necessarily be able to run for whatever reason, but tell your friends, tell your family, tell anyone you know, because if we're going to create change, we need people in these positions of power. The reason that toxic social ideology has gotten as far as it has is because they worked really, really hard to get into these positions of power and have control. So they got to make the rules for quite a while now with relatively little pushback. And if we want change, we have to put people who are rational, reasonable, and like larger minded in these positions. Yeah, a basic moral compass would be nice. I
And
don't
even
know.
if at lunch you just bring it up and say, I know that there's these elections and I'm not going to run because blah blah blah. Like even if that's all you're saying, you're still saying something and you're getting the conversation going. So, um, I, obviously, I'd love for every single person to run and just put their vision out there and their ideas out there, and we could have an election based on merit. on the merit of people's ideas and their experience, and that would be great. But that's not the world we live in. So, and I know it's very tough to run for these positions and to be involved on those boards. But I know that there's people out there watching the show, and people that watch this show that they know that are going to be our next school board leader and our next college board leader and things. That college board one that got me. I went and checked the clerk has like a list of who's filed to run, and it showed that all four of them filed to rerun for their position on day one. Uh, a college that is currently defending hiring a sex offender. Were just out of prison for sexually assaulting some of his students, and they hired him.
Anytime you have to go through like mental gymnastics to justify something, anytime you have to work that hard to make something make sense,
Yeah.
you got to step back and reevaluate. It shouldn't be that hard to make it make sense. If on its face, listen, you don't put a guy who sexually abused 17-year-old students in a school building, proctoring 17-year-olds taking an exam that basically like is going to determine the trajectory of their entire life. On its face, it's absurd. And so you can go through all of these intellectual gymnastics where you perform these kinds of like what ifs and buts, and you create all of these checklists, and he checked all the boxes. On its face, it's wrong. And if you don't have the moral compass to look at it on its face and say, this is wrong in principle, then you shouldn't be in a position of power, period.
No, not at all. And this article just came out a couple days ago and went viral on the internet. It's from
And they lied.
KEZI, and
They lied.
they put out a
And it's
press
not.
release. The college defending hiring the sex offender, and then the news put out this. What a great headline! Community college defends hiring of convicted sex offender. And like, we're not talking about a janitor. I mean, that would be bad enough, like the janitor was a sex offender. No, this is the director of pre-college tutoring. Like, it's not funny. He's interacting with his this people that were the same age as his victims. I mean, he was a theater teacher, I believe, in Eugene, and he was convicted of molesting two students at his school. And a good number of the alleged incidences, occurred during school hours in his classroom, in the auditorium. I don't even know what to say. I'm like speechless talking about this, and we talk about it every time because it's insane and it needs to be talked about, and it's worth talking about because so that article came out, and you'd think that like people have heard about this by now, and they haven't. Like, new people are hearing about this every time something comes up. And when that was posted, this was one of the things that came up in the comments. This girl says, he most certainly is still abusing students at this college. I reported an incident that happened back in 2019, and nothing was done to stop or prevent what was going on. And I've reached out to this person. They're a real person, and this really did happen. I'm going to be interviewing this person in the next couple weeks, and hopefully bring that story onto the podcast and share some details from that. But sad. I mean, like, ridiculous. Not
And
acceptable.
in the college's statement, they said that he is not instructing students. He is proctoring GED exams for, positively, absolutely sure, a 17-year-old girl and her cohort. So he is
Yeah, no, I have a friend of
absolutely,
the family that
yeah,
yep,
yeah.
he absolutely is. This was another comment on the TV station story to answer some of your questions. When I attended in 2017 to 2020, he was directly working on the tutoring floor. He was indeed working closely with underage students. It was not brought up to anyone that he was a sex offender, only from word of mouth of other students who knew.
And this guy is encouraging students to call him Uncle Curtis, and he likes to go run around with no shoes on on the campus. He likes to take his shoes off and encourage other students to take their shoes off. And where normally I would kind of be like, oh, that's not such a big deal. In the context of a sexual predator, these are boundary violations. Taking your shoes off is a very intimate experience that you don't do in a professional setting. It is dropping that barrier between the professional and the familiar. And a person who has a history of sexually abusing young people should never cross a boundary between the professional and the familiar like that. The Uncle Curtis thing is so
It's
grotesquely
weird.
inappropriate. It screams boundary violations. And like when we're dealing with young people, when you have your boundaries violated as a young person, it scars you. It really leaves a lasting hole in your boundary. That's not appropriate in this context, I don't think. But like things get through the boundaries, you know. And so when you create a hole in a young person's boundary, they're set up for a lifetime of basically boundary violations because that hole always exists there where inappropriate interactions get through. This stuff is not right. It's not
We're
right
also
to
not talking about like sexual harassment. This man, I know we've gotten into it before, but this man performed oral sex, or it was alleged. He was convicted of this allegation of performing oral sex on one of his students. I believe that situation happened in the auditorium during school
yes,
hours.
correct.
Um,
Yeah.
and Jeff's saying he's in a play. Yeah, this is next Friday, I believe. There's a play at the college and with young children, and they're not being told that he's a sex offender or what his convictions were, um, the details of them. I spoke at the college board meeting, and they wouldn't even let me read his indictment. Um, it's crazy. Uh,
You
they
know, us
they need
victims have to deal with that constantly. Um, these people who want to give a predator a second chance, they don't even want to hear what the predator did to their victim. Oh, that's
no, they were
graphic.
appalled that I was reading the
Yeah,
indictment. This is the
they don't
man
even
that
want to
they're
hear it.
defending,
Yeah,
and they can't hear
yeah.
the nature of his crimes because
So
they
us
are so
victims are
inappropriate.
like basically carrying around shame and this sense of like being dirty. Because let's say, Chris, if your house burned down and you lost everything you own, everyone in your life would be like, "Oh my God." And you told your story about how you smelled smoke and you ran into the room and the outlet was on fire and you grabbed the fire extinguisher, but it was too late and all you could do was grab your pets, and you could go into detail about how you saw the flames shooting up the wall and engulfing the ceiling, and people would listen and they would be so sympathetic. But when you tell people about how when you were a toddler, someone pried your legs open and played with your vagina, no one wants
Yeah.
to hear it. And so
This
us
this college
victims who
board
carry
certainly
that
doesn't want to
soul,
hear stuff like that for sure.
it's it
Yeah.
is so deeply disgusting that us victims don't have the opportunity to tell our story and get that relief. Because like when you tell people what happened to you and they go, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, that never should have happened, that person is a monster," fuck, it feels so good to just be validated. And when
Yeah.
people use shame to shut down victims, it like re-traumatizes. It is such a shitty thing to have to go through as a victim. And then these people want to put these predators right back in a position of power with literally the exact demographic that they abuse, and
Like
then
of
they
all
don't
the
have
jobs
to.
at that college they could have given him, they gave him the job of the GED department, overseeing teaching high school students.
He
Uh,
shouldn't have power over
it's
anyone, though,
insane.
to be
So
fair.
this is the college board. 4 of them are up for reelection this May. You can file right now to run for that position. And if you would like uh, Monday at 4:30, this Monday at 4:30, at Tioga Hall, room 505, you can go and voice your concerns to these individuals at the meeting. There's a public comment section, and you can let them know how you feel. I would encourage you to do that. Um, Again, that's this upcoming Monday at 4:30 at Tioga Hall. I plan on being there, and it would be a good opportunity to let these people know how you feel, because
It's so
it's not
upsetting
acceptable.
that when we say second chances, I don't think anyone ever meant literally a second chance to be in a position of power over 17-year-old girls again. Victims never get a second chance to be the person that they were before they were violated. So why the hell would we think a predator should have a second chance to have power over the exact demographic he abused?
Because
It's
they're
absurd
disgusting,
already.
deranged people,
You'd have to be.
unfortunately.
You'd have
And they
to be.
unfortunately have power over a publicly funded university
Yep.
in our area, and that power needs to be taken away from them.
And they're going to
Is
have that power until people step up and take it away from them.
Well,
I mean, this is going to keep happening until people step up and say, I'm going to be the reason it doesn't happen anymore.
it's crazy too. I mean, if those people want to do that and they want to have a college where all the professors are sex offenders, go for it. Don't use public funds to do it though. Start your own private university, call it we play with our students private parts university incorporated, and hire a bunch of sex offenders. There's probably thousands, if not tens of thousands out there waiting to be hired by you to
I
work
think
with kids.
enough enough teachers have been busted just in the state of Oregon in the last few years with either child porn or actually abusing students to like staff a whole school. There's
You
so
know,
many
actually,
of them.
I should bring that up on Monday and ask them, like, it, because if this is their conviction, right? If this is how they feel, if they feel, because that it was in their letter, they sent out a 2-page letter defending this decision. They
Oh yeah, with the
claimed that it was some
diverse and
altruistic,
equitable.
yep, diverse and equitable, and that they're doing a good thing. They're giving this man a second chance. If that's the case, are you actively recruiting more sex offenders, right? Because I mean, if other
That's
universities
the thing.
aren't doing this, which I imagine they're not, um, then these sex offenders are being mistreated and they're losing out on opportunities to have interactions with your youth that you're trying to educate. Like that too, like, did you forget that you're trying to educate them, and that maybe should be your goal in funding, publicly funding a university was not to give sex offenders second chances. It was to help
Yes.
educate youth. But whatever, we've lost track of that and
Mhm.
decided to help out some sex offenders. So why not go after more? I don't know. Is that crazy?
No,
So
I think it's a great idea actually. Like
I think I should ask
so
them about that.
the best way to battle dogma is to just take it to its extreme. Take it to its absurdity. So
I
where
should
does
bring
it
them a list of sex offenders in the area who would be good candidates to work with their students.
pull the ones that are from schools?
Yeah.
Pull the ones that are teachers and school administrative because there's like a list of them, which is kind of I will preface this by saying that I am super like pro lesbian and gay. Like I think it's a natural part of our it's a natural part of the human condition. I don't, I love my homos, but you don't put sex flags in school. Like, we all grew up with gay people. For me and you, our generation, Chris, that was normal and it was fine. And like, there was some stuff going on when we were teenagers with some gay kids getting tortured, and I think like there were some messed up stuff that happened in the 90s. But for the most part, we were raised with this acceptance, and I think that kind of permeated our culture for the most part. But when you start pushing sexuality on children, you're going to attract perverts. And that's what the rainbow flag is. It represents sexual preference. It's a
Yeah.
representation of who you like to bang. Why
When
is
I
that
grew up,
cool?
it wasn't a thing, not because it was taboo, but because I didn't know what sexual preference my teachers were, or even my classmates. I guess I was a prude, but it was nothing of our concern. Me and my little circle of friends, we didn't really talk about it. I have friends to this day that are single, and I don't know their sexual preference. Is it my business? I don't get it. But somehow along the way, in the past couple decades, it has become everyone's business. It's a badge of honor that people wear. Unless you're heterosexual, then you're entitled. And you've got something wrong with you because you're normal and that gives you privilege. Oh, I can't hear you. Something went uh we got to wait on Brandy. I'll look at the comments here.
Okay, I'm
We've
good.
got
I
Cheryl
think
says,
I
isn't
think it
he a
went dead.
liability? Oh, Cheryl says, isn't he a liability if he was to offend again and get caught? Couldn't the school be sued? You'd think so. And that's seems like we're headed down that path because I have had 3 people reach out to me with allegations that he has offended again. So I'm looking into that. I spend a little time each week on it, and it's pretty difficult to uncover some of this stuff. They're not being forthcoming. So
No.
the victims are, the school isn't. And then we also got Tom. Aren't there laws against this? Why doesn't the sheriff do anything about it, or the local police? Yeah, I don't know. Apparently you can hire sex offenders to work. He was actually, from what I can tell, he was on probation. He had just been released from prison, and he was supposed to be on probation for 5 years, and it specifically stated he was not to be around minors. However, the conditions of that probation, I believe, are determined by a parole officer, and it seems like they had the sign off, the okay from the parole officer. So I'm going to reach out to the parole officer, but all these things take time, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. Yeah, it's insane.
Isn't it wild that they ask everybody who is not a possible victim what they think? Isn't that wild? They didn't survey a bunch of 17-year-olds to say, hey, would you care if your GED exam that's going to determine the trajectory and success of your future life is proctored by someone who freaking sexually abused his 17-year-old students?
Yeah.
No, they don't care what the potential victims have to say. They ask people who have no skin in the game, who have nothing to lose, by saying, yeah, sure, go for it. Let's try an experiment and see what.
And it's not even a question that you have to ask. Yeah, we shouldn't have to ask that of our kids. No, we should not be having sex offenders put in a position of authority over our kids who are trying to receive an education. It's insane. And Jeff says, bet they don't hire anyone convicted of embezzlement, right? Like, you're not going to, the finance director of the university, if they had a prior conviction, a recent, like just gotten out of prison for embezzlement at a previous university, they would not be hired. There would be outrage. But like, we're talking about something that happened 14 years ago. So 14 years ago, I don't know how in the world they pulled this off, but they hired a sex offender fresh out of prison from being convicted of molesting his students. So that's a thing. Pretty
It's
insane.
wild. They all deserve to be famous. Every one of their faces of the people on the board and the school president should be in national news. I don't know. Maybe should we try to push it into the national news? Everyone would be so pissed. Like,
From the
especially with
stuff
all
that
the,
I'm hearing, if I can verify what I'm being told, then absolutely. This might be a pretty big story.
if you
But
listen, if
things take
they
time.
won't listen, if they won't hear the public and respond, and they will not reevaluate their decision, then yeah, maybe we should just try to blow it up in the national news and make them all famous for it. With the number of teachers who are getting convicted because of
Yeah.
the permissive attitude toward, like, hey, we'll bring adult sexuality into elementary schools, it'll be fine. So it turns out that attracted a bunch of perverts who are now being convicted of abusing students. Maybe that's the road we have to take, is push it out into the media, because it seems like these people just don't care.
Yeah.
They're
Or
so,
he's got something on him, or he was a family friend,
I think it was a
or
family friend.
something. But yeah, they certainly don't care about your children's education. They certainly do not care about creating a safe environment for your children to have an education. They certainly do not care about our tax dollars that are going towards funding this facility and these kids' education. They don't care.
Yeah, our
That's
college
and
should be used as a rehabilitation center for sexual predators.
yeah, no, certainly not. Yeah,
Wild. I
it
would
is.
love to see this hit the national news. I mean,
I actually wouldn't, because it would be bad for our area. It's not a
but
good
it's what
story.
has to
I mean,
happen. Listen, this
it,
shit has to hit
yeah,
rock bottom before it changes. Like, I was in your position like a couple of years ago, and like my pockets have no more F's left in them to hand out to people. I have no F's to give. Like,
yeah.
I am all for nuclear option if that's what it takes, scorched earth if that's what they push us to. Like,
It's because I get it. I'm on the like, people reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, he's at this play next week. Next Friday is the opening night of this
and it's
play."
Rent. It's
And
a play about sexual activity and AIDS.
yeah,
Why would you put a
and
sexual predator?
because
It's
they're
just
crazy
it's
people.
so
But
weird.
people
It's
wanted to
so weird.
protest and cause a big scene there, and go for it if people want to do that. Absolutely. I'm
Everything's
on
so
the
weird.
fence though, whether I want to do that or encourage that totally, because the people who are rightfully in that play and doing it, that who aren't sex offenders, why, they've been working for months and months and months to prepare for this, and it shouldn't be ruined or stained because the college put a sex offender in that position. So
It's very
uh,
generous of you. I don't feel the same way.
well, what do we want to go next Friday and protest? Because yeah, you're right, like something's got to happen, something shocking has, because they're not
Until
listening.
everyone who participates in the enabling is held accountable for their role, nothing will change.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we have an election. I hate saying this, but we've got an election. We've got an opportunity to take 4 out of the 7 out of that position of power and put 4 out of the 7 into that position that will care about our kids and our tax dollars and our community.
It's
And
God, I feel like these people are so entrenched in their ideology. They're so entrenched. It has to be a situation where their identity as a good person has become linked with this thing that they did, that they have to believe is a good thing
they're
if
not good
they're to
people.
believe that they're good people. And so even if they're not, which I'm sorry, but this is like, if you
The way
are
they
an
treated me
idiot.
last
This
month
was a
at the
super bad
meeting,
thing to do, but
yeah, they're not good people.
it has to be a situation where they cannot decouple. They can't confront the idea that this was a mistake, it was a bad decision, it was a wrong decision, because that would mean that they were a bad person, that they were wrong as a person, because it's an identity thing.
Yeah.
And so until the entire nation knows these people's names and faces and thinks they're a piece of shiza for what they've done, I don't think that any of it is going to make a difference. They're just going to dig their heels in, and they're going to feel super self-righteous in their actions. And I don't know, man. I think that they need to be known on a national level and to set the precedent that, listen, if you are a person who's on a board of directors and you think that it's a good idea to do something like this, reconsider. Because, I mean, there has to be consequences for these bad decisions, or people just won't do the hard work of reevaluating their decisions.
Well, and people should inform others about this. I mean, you can go to
Yeah.
Google and type Southwestern Oregon Community College uh, Board of Education. You'll get to this page, share it on Facebook, and let people know these 7 people right here are defending hiring a sex offender fresh out of prison to interact with minors at a taxpayer funded university. And they're disgusting for doing that. And they are not sorry. They're not questioning their decision. They're not doing anything but doubling down on it and defending the man instead of defending our community and our community college's students from predators. That's what they should be doing.
And
They
you
should,
know what? If you're a person who can't handle to hear the story about what a abuse survivor went through, then you're not a person who's entitled to have an opinion about the opportunities provided to a predator.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you're talking about, yeah, last month I tried to
Yep.
read the indictment of what this person did, what the sex offender, the crimes that he committed, and they would not hear it. They slammed that first lady, Marcia Jensen. She's the what's it called? The chair of the board. She slammed her gavel, stood up, came at me, got all mad that I was being inappropriate, reading from the indictment from the person that they hired. Tom's asking, are they all up for election or just a majority? A majority, 4 of them. Marcia, the chair, and 3 others are up for re-election. But if we can get 4 people in there that do not approve of sex offenders working at the university and care about protecting our community and its students, then we could flip the board. That's a controlling majority, 4 out of 7. Cheryl's asking, can an online petition be done? It can.
They,
I
I don't think
I
they'll
just don't know if, yeah. I mean, essentially, the election is a petition. So, I mean, we have the opportunity as Coos County to vote these people out. Currently, there is no one challenging them for any 4 of those positions. So there's still, I think, a whole month left for people to file. I'm considering running. I know of a couple others who are considering. I hope we make it happen. But yeah, it sucks. Like we have an opportunity here. We have a big opportunity, Coos County, to do this. And it's more complicated than that. It takes years and years of working to get people prepared for a position like this, to take that position from these people. And we only heard about this a couple months ago. Like, one thing I'm trying to do is work with the Republican Party. And whether you're Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. But if you have beliefs and you believe in them, and there's a party out there that can articulate your beliefs into a party platform, then go and support them. And that is a good organization, or it should be a good organization, to help move certain ideals forward And the Republican Party is not doing a good job of that. They're not doing a good job. This is a highly conservative area. That College Board should be the majority conservative. It should be an easy feat for the Republican Party to do, and they're not doing a good job. So I'm trying to work on that, and it's turning into like a multi-year thing instead of like a multi-month thing, unfortunately. So you did say that you had to go after an hour, and it's been an
I
hour and
do.
15 minutes.
So I didn't tell you the whole story. She is a domestic violence situation, and her her partner is currently in jail for assault.
This is the person who came to visit, who's coming to visit you, and you're gonna have dinner with her, and that's why.
She's gonna come tomorrow because she has to fill out. She has to sign off on the order of protection tomorrow morning, and so then she's gonna come down. So yeah, I have. It was
well, good. She's getting away from that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, So she has him recorded telling her that he didn't even use all of his strength and that he wished he would have, and the next time he's going to knock her out.
It's crazy.
He wishes he would have hit her harder, and it.
Yep. Yeah.
Stuff that I don't want to say on camera. But
good that she's getting out of that situation, and good that almost every town I've ever been in has some sort of a domestic violence group, advocacy group that is more than willing to help people.
And she's got people. She went to the she went to medical today, and she got an evaluation. She had a concussion from the assault, and she had to sign off on a medical release tonight. And she has to sign off on the order of protection tomorrow morning, and then she can head down and she'll be gone, because I'm pretty sure that he was laughing on the recording. He was super pleased with himself and was giggling about it. And on the video of him being arrested, he was like laughing about it. I'm pretty sure that if he gets the chance, he's going to kill her.
I mean, some of these guys thrive on it. It's like they get off on it. It's something that they love. They love I don't know what, but it's crazy.
This
had
is
to
my
deal with more than I want to.
Don't say the illegal stuff on. But my goodness, we sure do need a better social mechanism for taking care of these types, because.
Well, we need better communities that value the family structure and raise good people.
Yeah.
Good men that don't beat their spouses and girlfriends, don't treat them like shit, respect them. That's what we need.
People are going to do what they're going to do. And there's the nurture versus nature thing. And you can't really make people be someone they're not. If a person is going to be a bad person and be a predator, they're going to do it. Largely,
but kind of like the community college enabling by hiring a sex offender. You're saying that behavior is forgivable and that it's acceptable, and once you do your time, you're good, and that's not reality.
It's not.
It's just not reality.
There is a lot of evidence that this kind of stuff is a pattern of behavior that is consistent with like personality traits, and it's not like, it's not unlearnable. This is a part of who people are. Like Curtis, the dude is engaging in boundary violations still. The guy doesn't understand boundaries. That's why he did what he did in the first place. That's why he's taking his shoes off. That's why he's trying to get students to call him uncle. It's overly familiar. It's a boundary violation. These people continue to be who they are. And I don't know what is with people where they think they can save them. It's like something inside of every
Or
one
they
of us.
think that like, oh, because you stopped the beating or you
Yeah,
stopped the sexual assault, that and they'll never do it again, that you've solved them. And it's like, no, like if you're beating your spouse, more often than not, it's because you don't respect like if I'm a man and I'm doing that, it's because you don't respect women. Probably you
I-
probably view them as objects and not human beings. And that's so if you're gonna fix something, you got to fix that like on a deeper level. The anger thing is just like a projection of the root of the problem.
I have yet to see solid evidence. It costs so much money to put people through a program, and these programs, you will not see this stuff in the news. These programs are largely ineffective. You can't change who a person is to a large degree. Now, if the person really chooses to change and commits to it themselves, it'll happen. Like if a person makes a conscious choice, but like when the dude is participating in subsequent boundary violations and does not respect the professional relationship between an educator and a student,
Or
the
respect
dude
what
is
he did.
showing us, he's
Respect
showing
that,
the
hey, I
will.
did this, so I should not go and apply for this job at a community college. Like that would be, you know,
Yes.
learning, like that would
Yeah.
be penance. That would be me learning, man, I did a really bad thing and
Yep.
I'm gonna be accountable for that. But yeah, we
Florida
don't.
is has a dude on trial for up for the death penalty, their first child rape case. So Florida has implemented a law. There is some question as to whether or not it violates the Eighth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I think that they should go ahead and take it back to the Supreme Court and have them revisit the case if they really need to. And so this Eighth Amendment was basically undue or cruel and unusual punishment. And so if the result of the action wasn't death, it is inappropriate to request that the punishment be death. I think it's time to reevaluate that. I think that a person who rapes a child under the age of 12 and we have concrete evidence. Some of these people are caught in the act. They find perennial tears. There's physical evidence. Yeah, death penalty is appropriate. Get them off the face of the earth forever.
Yeah,
And
in
so
this litigious day and age, it would take decades and lots of tax dollars to accomplish that. Not that I think that you're
they're
wrong,
doing
but
it.
it's just like, holy crap, like I could just imagine that in Oregon, it would just
They're doing
y-
it in
y-
Florida. They've got their first
yeah.
guy up on trial and he's facing the death penalty and they're going for it. And the alternative, if they don't get the death penalty, if they don't get the votes for it, because it's set up in a way that they have to get like 8 votes for the death penalty. So if they don't get the votes, it's a mandatory life in prison, which is the way it should be.
Can't we just do cage matches? Like I can spar off with a sex
Love
offender
it. We should do like the
in a cage
Spartans did.
match.
Throw them off a cliff, super cheap. Don't waste it. The Banded Dudes have great cliffs, you guys.
Yeah, don't
Just
give
saying.
anybody any ideas.
Just saying. We have
We
some
got to
great
solve
cliffs.
this. We can't continue it down the road we're going with the increase in I mean, Oregon is a sanctuary state for sex offenders. It's disgusting, and that's factual. That is backed up with statistics.
God, and
We are.
there is the amount of effort that has gone into rehabilitating these people, the amount of research that has been put into rehabilitating these people, and they have by and large failed. You can't
Well,
change whether it's nurture, whether it's nature. They say that there's a predisposition and it's triggered by the environment, it's triggered by trauma, which is super offensive to all of us who have been through significant trauma and didn't go on to sexually abuse someone. Now, having trauma actually doesn't make you a sex offender. That was already inside of that person. So on behalf of everyone who has ever been a victim of sexual assault, it is, please know, for those who haven't, that saying that trauma makes someone a sex offender is deeply, deeply offensive. Because no, you can go through terrible things and not go on to abuse other people. Totally possible for women and men.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff's mentioning a recent case where someone only got 145 months, which sounds like a long time, but
No, it's not.
if you sexually violated 9 women, that's not a lot of time. Yeah, it's crazy.
So
I bet it was, even though it was a conservative judge, I would imagine if I looked into this case, it was probably some limit by
yeah,
legislation.
yes, yeah. This stuff is coming out of Salem. The reason that we can't actually like have real punishment and real consequences is because of the Oregon state legislature. But we can't take on the legislature until we get our county on the same page with being zero tolerance. And then, and that's like, again, my big, hairy, audacious goal is to kind of unite the county in a zero tolerance and then rally the other counties to take on Salem and basically make Oregon State a very unpleasant place to be if you want to commit crime.
I think there's an opportunity here in the next couple of years, if things
I do
go
too.
well, to make Coos County a good template for other counties in the state to
I
start
do too.
standing up and
We have nothing but
creating
opportunity
different
ahead of us.
solutions.
And it's, God, it seems like such a big nebulous problem, but it's one step at a time. And we have the stage set in front of us to make real change, cultural change that permeates politics. And so I think now is the time to do it.
Well, first step is to flip that college board. So if you know anyone, I know you've got coworkers that are of the caliber to sit on a college board. So put the word out. I'm sure they have friends and their friends have friends. I don't even care if they're Democratic, just as
Oh,
long as they
totally.
don't
Yeah,
support
yeah,
sex offenders.
yeah,
Let's just get 4 people on there that don't support
yeah.
hiring sex offenders. Is that
Let's
too
hear it
much of
for
an ask, Coos County?
Democrats with boundaries.
You know,
We're here for you.
I think I get more calls from Democrats on some of these major controversial issues, and
Really?
they're like, "Thank you. Thank you for standing up. I am a Democrat, but on this issue, I'm with you." And then it's like we get talking, and it turns out like almost every issue, they're with me. And it's like, I think people have a misunderstanding of what their parties are. I think on both sides, all across the spectrum, people don't have a really good understanding of what their party is supposed to be standing up for and
Yeah.
what their actual, platform is and how that relates to local issues.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that, Coos County, because, even the Democratic Party platform, the original platform, not the bastardized one that Oregon has, has some good stuff in there.
It does.
They,
Yeah.
they mean well.
Yeah.
Meaning
Cool.
well isn't always the best, but yeah.
You can work with it, That's a start.
Yeah. Well, I'm out of stuff for tonight. What about you?
Yeah. Of course, there's more stuff that I could bang on about, but
There's
we can
always
call
more.
it.
I'm going to Portland tomorrow for a conference for the Republican Party, so that'll be interesting.
Oh, cool.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Cool. Yeah.
Hopefully,
We'll be excited to hear
Portland
about
doesn't
it.
scare me. I hear lots of stories about Portland.
It's not in good shape.
I should bring my camera and like do a little
you should.
walking tour.
Dude,
Be interesting.
I lived up there between 2013 and 2015 for about a year and a half before I moved back down. When I first left New York City, and I moved up to Vancouver, Washington, because I had some family there, and worked in downtown Portland. They're on, I think it's like Jefferson Street or Jefferson Avenue or something like that. And it was it was pretty. It was beautiful. Like I would go to jazz clubs and like I would jog. I would on my lunch break, I would do a jog all around the Pearl. And it was just, there were some homeless, but it was pretty under control. Like they're down in the Pearl. And it was just like I would go out by myself. I like to go have drinks by myself. And so like I would take myself out to like an old speakeasy and sit and like have my bee's knees and felt perfectly safe walking out to my car and like, just being by myself. It's different. It's kind of a shithole now. It sucks. It sucks because I
Well,
really had fun. I enjoyed hanging out down there.
I'll try and look out for some of the beauty of it as well,
God,
and
it
not
was
just
so
focus on
fun.
the crime. Cheryl says, "Put your head on a swivel." I've heard
Yeah.
that. I will do
Yeah.
that. Thanks for watching, Cheryl, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even up in as recently as like 2018, I went up there and met some people from an online group actually. And like we partied together and I stayed the night with my sister while she was up there. And like we had been drinking heavily and went, walking around, wandering through the streets. I'm not even totally sure where we were. And it was fine. It was totally, I would not do that today.
Yeah,
It was
that's
night,
sad.
night and
Cities
day
are supposed to be
difference.
fun and safe, but um, yeah, they're not. And even
Yeah,
little
man.
old Coos Bay and North Bend. Anyways, Tom says, "Have a good night." Thanks for
Yeah.
watching, Tom. Always good seeing you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night, you guys.
Yeah, but that's all we got. We'll be back next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Um, this is actually episode 11. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I've been
Nice
counting.
work. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for chatting, Brandy. See you next week.
See you later, Chris.